What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to the meditations for our most recent Star Wars Shatterpoint Battle Report. We featured the new boxes for Han Solo and Inferno Squad, and I'm going to get it right off the bat here because anyone who watched the Battle Report could probably hear my voice. Inferno Squad felt really oppressive to play against, just really oppressive.
I feel like I might have to agree. Delmico did not have, we discussed it a little bit off camera, but Delmico didn't have the best possible opening activation. Had Iden gone first, he would have been able to double tap and kill the commandos on the first turn, which feels real bad.
Even just doing 7 points of damage.
Yeah.
But you know what? It wasn't Del. It wasn't Del that bothered me because Gar Saxon can already do that. We have that in the game.
You have separatists who move people around. I think we both agree the real problem child is this guy right here.
The fact that his innate ability to just give you a strike, one, doesn't care about wounded models.
Yep.
Two, doesn't have a range restriction.
The only restriction is to the Galactic Empire Scout triggering the ability, and boy howdy, when you have 5 scouts on the field, they cover, and the measure from them is range 5, they cover most of the board.
And the fact that it also works in melee on top of all that, just everything about Inferno Squadron just felt so friggin' oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
And the mechanics all work, but it's just everything you had something that reacted to almost everything.
Yep.
I think everything except for me wounding one of your guys.
Yeah.
Is the only thing you didn't have a reaction to. But it didn't matter because you just brought so much bloody attrition to the battle.
Everyone on Delmico was the only one who doesn't have an ability in some way to move multiple people around,
but he's a
secondary, and he's support, and he shoots twice.
Yeah.
Oh no, he doesn't move other people around. But anyways, bang bang.
But yeah, there was just something about this game that felt so oppressive, and I think that was compounded by the fact that a lot of my defensive rolls were really horrible. I was rolling fails for days.
Yes,
on this particular game.
I feel had your rolls been a little more average, this would have felt better, but I don't know if it would have felt good.
I mean, I would have felt like I was a little bit more in the fight.
For sure.
I mean, so many instances. For instance, Luke rolling 5 dice and getting 3 fails and 2 strikes.
That was a little rough.
That was beyond a little rough.
Yeah.
I'm coming off really kind of salty on this one, and it'll fade in a couple minutes. It'll be gone in a couple minutes. But it was just Inferno Squad tilted me hard. And I don't know what the solution to it is. And yeah, sure, there were some play mistakes that I think I probably made in the game. Maybe I shouldn't have put the commandos as far up as they did, because it did give Del that ability to
go
target them really early. Same with Iden, it gave her a strong ability to go after them very quickly as well.
Yeah, and using that ability to kind of progress up the board, gain momentum, take an objective. Had I remembered her identity that early on, it would have been even more oppressive.
Yeah.
She would have had an extra dash in there. She would have been throwing out conditions.
Yeah, they're just so incredibly mobile. They're throwing out conditions. I was fighting off conditions the entire game.
Yep.
There wasn't really anything I was able to do about that. Just conditions left, right, and center. Now, granted, I mean the struggle choices also were not doing me any real favors in this game either.
No, they were rough for you round 2, and round 3 I was able to get something out of that, but this is the worst one for you.
You had 3 struggles that were really kind of just coincidentally favoring you in that regard.
Yeah.
And I quite literally struggled quite a bit there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not gonna lie, it was rough. It was rough. I don't want to blame the dice because I do know I made some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I made better use of Lando and R2 this particular game.
I want to say this is probably the best I've seen them do a lot of the time.
Once it twigged on that clever disguise, if I Shatterpoint them, they can get up to a midpoint and not be shot.
Yeah, that was the quickest turnaround I've gone on. That seems a weird Shatterpoint too. That seems a really good Shatterpoint.
Yeah, it was really good. I think the other thing that really hurt me, I think in both decks, Han and Luke were my last activations.
Yes, that was very much rough. I think I said it off camera at one point that your deck seemed upside down. If you had drawn the other direction, that would have felt really good for you.
Because one of my plans was to hopefully get Luke onto a point and just have him hold the point, but because he was my last activation both times, the guy who was most equipped to hold a point, I couldn't get up there.
Yeah.
Right? And unfortunately, he was just kind of stuck there. Now, thankfully, Han's tactic ability still moved him around a good chunk.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't enough. I'm still really kicking myself for not just pushing Hask off, and because that would have
fair.
Yeah,
I believe that would.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I top deck
that was a
Shatterpoint.
guaranteed win the game right there.
Because basically what that does is that allows me to activate probably Han and just take out the Stormtrooper Sergeant at this point.
Yeah, he's real low. He's a good target.
Yeah.
Had you not gone hard into Hask, I wouldn't have hated if it came. I'm not sure offhand on the points, but I wouldn't have hated going with Obi-Wan and punching Hask down to get that extra challenging.
Well, the problem is you would have been.
Oh, I would have been right
you would have been on there,
yeah.
so I wouldn't have been able to punch you at all.
Fair point.
So yeah, I wouldn't have been able to work at all. So Han would have been the activation to try and do something, or alternatively, I activate Chewie and shoot Hask.
That's true. Yeah, Chewie could have
points of
gone,
damage
shoot
for that.
Hask, take him down.
So yeah, that's the really. I think that's the part that's frustrated me the most. I had a win condition in position, and I decided I have the Force. Let's do this.
Yeah, just a fun thing, and then it wound up.
And it leads back to one of my issues with the game. I feel like I can't do fun things in this game.
I feel like Struggle 1, you can kind of get away with doing some fun stuff. Struggle 2, you can definitely be punished for it, but by Struggle 3, the fun, flavorful things can no longer happen.
Even in Struggle 1, I don't really feel like fun things are really something you can adequately do unless you're already ahead, right?
That's the thing.
Because I think the second I decide to do a fun thing, well, I run the risk of I'm throwing things into RNG, and all of a sudden it's like, well, my thing that I did to increase my enjoyment of the game has adversely affected my ability
decreased my enjoyment
to win the game, which has in turn decreased my enjoyment. And like the game is just, on one hand, the rule set is so tight that like one mistake will punish you. One mistake will punish you, right? And it's really unfortunate that that's the case. Like I feel like they, I don't know. I don't know. I just it just feels bad to feel like by doing something a little bit more fun, I kind of threw the game away. It is really unfortunate. And considering that 5 dice, you look at the amount of stuff on here, and there's 2 fails.
Yeah.
And I rolled 3 friggin' fails on 5 dice, and hey, look, there's that fail again, because that's all I was seeing all game, and so I know I'm kind of ranting a little bit, but I want to say, like, you played Inferno Squadron quite well.
I think they're easy to play well. This was my first time really like getting in depth with them. I looked at them when they came out and talked about them briefly, but this is when I really sat down, went through all their cards, figured out what I wanted to do with them, and they just kind of told me what to do with them by reading the cards, and then by playing them, they just felt really good. They did all the things. Hask feels kind of like Hunter in that he's adding that extra bit of consistency. The problem is Hunter adds it to your clones and your Bad Batch, and Hask adds it to everybody.
Yeah, which is kind of busted. But no, here's the thing. You made good decisions with them. You played very well with them. That compounded the fact that they felt very oppressive to play against. Like, all their mechanics just felt really rough, right? So, I mean, it was being piloted, in my opinion, well. And
I wouldn't disagree. I think that they're not hard to
Why, yes, I did play well.
I think so good. But no, I think they're quite easy to play well. They kind of just want to walk up towards a point, don't get into melee, shoot someone until they die, and then, oops, I'm on the point now.
Well, I think you could easily overextend them as well. And
I think so, too.
And the ISFs, you kind of did a little bit, but everyone else just did their roles so well.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, because I put Del Mico and Iden Versio onto your back point early, and they didn't overextend.
Well, the problem is they didn't overextend because they took out the 2 guys holding the back point.
Yes.
Right? And because I had this piece of terrain right here, and then this piece of terrain right here, I had no venue to get over and deal with it, right? Like, I had to spend 2 activations just to even see them. So, I mean, that's the nature of the board setup. I'm not going to fault the board setup for this, because I'd rather have an interesting board that creates some interesting problems.
Yes, and it did feel like I saw a really cool opportunity when I went, oh, if I go up and I put myself there, I'm going to be in a good position defensively. It made me feel better about kind of extending up. And we talked about it a little bit, but you could have done the same thing over here by like climbing up on here. That was an option to be really good defensively.
I never had a chance to climb up there.
All
my movements around there were basically based off tactics and responses.
That's true.
So none of them were climbs.
Never mind.
I couldn't have gotten up there, unless I specifically made an action to get up there.
That is true.
Yeah. But there was always times that I needed to do something else. So, Anyway, that's about it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these guys on the table. I think Inferno Squadron is very strong. I think General Solo requires a little bit more brain power than I was able to muster this particular game. Or RNG. I don't know. We'll see what happens as the games go on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Happy wargaming.